Hi folks, this is Peter Nowland from New Edge Sharpening. Okay, the purpose of this video is just to talk about knife edge maintenance. What you can do to keep your knife sharp. The purpose of this video is to help you keep your knife sharp for a little while longer. It is not intended to demonstrate knife sharpening. So yes, this is not designed for anyone who wants to take their knife out of their dull knife resting area and make it sharp again. It's designed for those who are starting with a sharp knife and they like to keep it sharp for as long as possible before it goes back into the sharpening system. So, but you got to understand that knife, maintaining a knife there's a cycle. Sharpen, maintain, you maintain, you maintain, you maintain, sharpen, maintain, and so on and so on. The process of knife maintenance will not last forever. Its period of effect is dependent upon the user and your habits, and obviously in a pro kitchen the period of edge retention diminishes rapidly. Understanding that steeling is not technically sharpening the knife is important. Otherwise, if you stubbornly keep steeling when it no longer has any positive effect, you end up making things worse, and the process of sharpening becomes longer and more difficult. People have a tendency to apply more pressure which in turn can distort the bevel. So as long as you understand that steeling and honing is a temporary thing, you'll be fine. So I feel my responsibility as a sharpener is to deliver a knife that's exceptionally sharp, and I need to be aware that certain finishes will hold an edge longer than others. I need to be vigilant of the geometry of the blade and then thin the secondary bevel as required. However, edge maintenance is your responsibility. Maintenance is not just a physical act. It's not just the act of steeling a knife, and the way I'm showing you right now is not the way I do it, but just for the purpose of this video. So maintenance is not just a physical act, it's a mental attitude you need to adopt. If a sharp knife is important to you, as it should be, you should also keep into consideration that the edge will fail regardless of what you do, assuming you use a knife. But the degree of failure and the length of time that the knife remains usable in the kitchen is something you can have control over. It's not just about steeling. Be vigilant and careful of the way the edge is handled. No need to slam it into a cutting board. You know, you don't when you're cutting things, you don't have to slam into it. Another thing that you do when you're cutting up vegetables, for example, you know, we can scrape them away. Well, you're scraping away on the edge. You could just turn the knife over and go like that. So cut, and slide like that. So it's like I said, it's a mental attitude you need to adjust. You know, a dishwasher is bad news. You don't keep it in a drawer with other metal objects. It's just dullness waiting to happen. You know, obviously a glass cutting board is bad news. So the physical act of sharpening can come in a variety of ways. This is a hone. Okay, a hone hones a knife. It keeps it's designed to keep a sharp edge sharp. We sharpen dull knives. We hone sharp knives. So you can get a ceramic hone like this, which is an Idaho hone that I got from Paul's Finest, my favorite hone, one of my favorite places to buy sharpening products. A steel, which most cooks use. We're all familiar with a butcher's steel, which is the same thing, but it's just made of steel. A fine Waterstone, you know, a leather strop. Other people have different methods. Some people will run it down the length of their jeans or something like that, you know. So there's different things we can do. But however, let's just assume that from the way I'm going to do it, the way I'm going to talk about in this video is using a hone and I'm going to throw in a Waterstone. You know, remember, a dull knife, it leads to frustration, it leads to stress, it's dangerous, and can have a negative impact on food as it tears through cells and ripping them open instead of a gentle slice that a sharp knife can make. And thus it minimizes, a sharp knife minimizes the collateral damage on the cell structure. We all know how good a sharp knife feels in your hand. A razor sharp knife it's an elegant tool. Okay, it's a beautiful thing. It, you know, it's something that it can cultivate culinary creativity. On the other hand, a dull knife is just a piece of steel dampening the entire process of cooking. It becomes just something to get the job done and over with. So let's assume that you love your knives sharp, but also that you know that you've got some responsibilities. I really get frustrated when I walk into a restaurant and see dull knives. I mean, there's just no need of it. Sharpening knives is not that difficult. It takes some commitment, and yes, you need to learn, but you also need to have the desire to learn and be proud of your knives. I know folks who have some awesome handmade Japanese knives, but they're dull. To me, that's a sin. It's a lack of respect for the knife and a lack of respect for the person who made it, I think. Especially when it's so easy to keep them sharp. I'll show you how I steel a knife and how I think it's important to learn. If you have another technique, a faster one like the Gordon Ramsay style, go for it. If that's what you think if you're improving your edges, I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. Good on you. Okay, so I'm going to talk about, let's get on to it, how I sharpen, how I hone a knife. Okay, first thing, this is a hone. Okay, keep this handy. Don't hide it somewhere where you have to go looking for it all the time to dig it out. So if you see it there in your kitchen, near your knives, it'll be a visual clue. Okay, I gotta hone that knife. I gotta hone it. Okay, and this is something you can do every day in your knife. So remember, we're starting with a sharp. You've got the knife sharp, and now we want to keep it that way. So, you know, we've seen, like I said, I know folks who do it other methods. We're holding this like this. Okay, I recommend you do this. You can put this on your countertop. You can put a little rag or something like that to keep it in place. Anchor it in position, hold it straight up and down. You want to get the knife, you want to do this steel at about a 20-degree angle. So if this is 90 degrees and this is 45, you're going to get up there about 20 degrees. As long as you're not driving it into the edge, you're not going to hurt your knife. Remember what you're doing here. If you can visualize what you're trying to do, the edge of this knife, when it gets dull, has failed. The metal here along this primary edge is folded over to the side, or bits of it, or some of it might even broke off. Ideally, what we want to do is remove that fatigued metal, but some steels won't do that. So theoretically, what we're doing here, what we want to do, is by a correct technique with a good steel or ceramic hone, we'll realign that steel. It's going to push that metal back into place. Okay, so remember, it's a temporary measure. We're just pushing fatigued metal back and forth. So eventually that fatigued metal has to go. So I start at the heel. I'm holding my hone upright and I'm going straight down. Now, I go on either side. Now you can go like this. Do it 5 per side. And I'm not using much pressure at all. Okay, so I'm going to do it 10 times. 10 times, first 5 times are with pressure. Now, it's not much pressure. And I've lost count, it's about 4 times, that's 5. Remember, what I'm trying to do here is realign that steel. Now, it's just the weight of the blade, just running it down. So, like I said, if you have another method of doing this, that's fine. This is the way we're going to do it. Okay, so you can test your knife. I've done this. The knife actually does feel sharper. I've actually got to an edge knife and tried to shave arm hair with it. I couldn't, and then I used this steel on it, and I was able to. So it does have an effect, and that's something I've changed my opinion on it. First, I didn't really know if I believed in this whole theory of realignment, but I think it does if you're doing it properly. Okay, now you can do this for several days. You can do it every day. You can do it, pro chefs will do this in the middle of their shift or several times. They'll keep this handy and they'll do it a lot. Okay? ideally, like I said, we want to remove the fatigued metal that's formed, that's folded over on the edge. But so that's ideally what you want to do. Butchers seem to have this down really well. And I know I was talking to one fellow, he told me that his dad was a butcher, and that he would run the edge over a napkin after he's done it, and see to make sure he's got some little piece of metal filing. So when he did that, he knew that he'd successfully honed this knife, and which is a good thing. Say not all knives will succumb to this as easily as others. This is a soft steel, so the metal can move back and forth. Remember, so that this is a knife edge when it's new, and this is when it's dull. The edge is folded over, so this steel is going to push it back into place. A very hard knife, 60 and above or 63, well, that metal is not very flexible, so this steel may not work. In fact, it may break some of that off. So they say not to steal a handmade Japanese knife, so and that's what I believe. I don't believe you should. So I'll get into how we do that though. So now, what if we throw a Waterstone into the mix? Okay, so we've got this hone, and we've also got this 5,000 grit Japanese Waterstone. Let's just throw that into this mix. Okay. Now, what am I talking about? We're not going to sharpen, we're still the honing process. So you can have this by your workstation. You know, a 2,000 grit stone would work okay here. A 1,200 grit 15. You want a good a fine stone. So we don't want to remove. We don't want to get form a burr. We don't want to get into the sharpening process. This is still part of the honing process. So think of this as a rectangular hone. Okay. So we've done it. You've adopted a routine. Every day for a week you use the steel. Okay. And then on day 7, you take out this stone, and you're going to, you can actually use a Sharpie on this. Remember, like you can mark that to make sure you've got the thing. Again, at about a 20-degree angle, about an inch, you know, depending on the width of your blade here, but an inch, 3/4 of an inch off the thing will give you the edge, the angle you want. And now we're just going to use trailing strokes. These are trailing motions with very little pressure. Okay? It's almost just the weight of the blade. So why am I doing this? What's the difference between this steel and this Waterstone and a steel? Well, this Waterstone is an abrasive. And I told you that the best thing you want to do with your knife is remove that fatigued metal. So this will do that. You're now removing this metal. And you can do it again. 10 times on either side. This is 1, and I'm very little pressure, very little pressure. 2. Okay, and you can do that 10 times. So you wipe the blade off, and you go back to the cooking. See that I had that marked on the red Sharpie on there. It's all gone. So I knew I was at the right angle. Now we can put this aside. Some folks have some cooks have a knife, a stone that you can keep soaked in water. Again, it's something there close. So that's part of your cooking, your process. The entire cooking process is not just about cooking, it's also about keeping your knives sharp and being proud of them. There's another benefit to using this Waterstone. Ideally, you want to be able to sharpen your knives at the end of the day. Now, I understand not many people do that, but you could learn how to do this. By doing this, you're developing a muscle memory in your arm. You're at this angle. So you could actually sharpen this. You could knife using the same angle with different Waterstones. You know, lower grit to build it up, just like I've taught you in knife sharpening videos. So, and that's a good thing. So, remember, the knife is dull because the edge is folded over. It's succumbed though all the pressures applied. It's done its job, so now you have to just remove it. You know, you want to get rid of that metal. You know, so remember, we start with a very sharp knife. You develop a mental attitude where you're proud of your knife, you're proud of the edge, and you'll do whatever you can do to keep it that way. But remember, there's no shame in taking your knife to get it professionally sharpened. Think of it, sending your knife out to the spa, the sharpening spa. Not all cooks can sharpen knives. I mean, and there's nothing wrong with that. They're very busy people too. So, and remember, if you do sharpen your own knife and you're a cook or whatever, you don't have to be a fanatic like I do and get it to the point where you can do eye surgery. You just need to get it where you can use it, and you know that you're slicing through a tomato and you're not forcing your way through it. If you're doing that, great. If you can do that with a 1000 grit stone, you're fine. Remember, okay, folks, this is just a collection of my thoughts. It's not here to tell you that whatever you're doing is wrong. I'm just telling you this is a way to do it. This is just edge maintenance. It's a physical act and it's a mental attitude. Okay, and believe me, we all love knives that are sharp. So there you go. Thank you for watching.